We could be live. Good morning, folks. Wherever you are out there, welcome. You are listening to the Charge Life podcast. I am Joseph Barletta, and this is where we discuss EVs and all things EV charging. Glad you could pull over and park with us today. So let's get plugged in. Hey, look, today's episode's all about Rivian gaining access to Tesla Supercharger network. You're going to love this one. Before we begin today's episode, it's brought to you by Smart Charge America. Since 2007, Smart Charge America has installed tens of thousands of EV charging stations nationwide, and they can do the same for you today. Whether in the home, commercial, or service, let their team of expert installation specialists guide you to the best solution given your new electric car needs. After all, if you can't charge, you can't drive. Visit smartchargeamerica.com today to get started. All right, Rivian gaining access, Tesla supercharging network. Look here, this is what we're going to do. I wanted to we did our previous episode on this with regards to Ford gaining access. And what we've learned since then was that roughly 60% of the V3 Supercharger network across the US was opened up to Ford. And now, of course, we have that to Rivian. In my opinion, I stated in the Ford video that I believe Ford's resale value on their vehicles basically increased 20% with this move overnight. And I'm going to stick with that on Rivian and just say the same for Rivian. So kudos, Rivian. It couldn't have been a better time after the disastrous fourth quarter earnings report. You have the debut and of the R2 and the R3 models, really good. And then, of course, this really good news. I'm hoping that the Rivian stock is actually catching a little bit momentum, a little bit more, you know, uh, I guess, I don't want to say fire. I'm trying not to say fire when it comes to EV stuff. So let's just focus on that at hand. Look, I get it. Rivian's still really good software interface. Some say that maybe not as best as Tesla, but definitely greater, better than Ford. Some of their hardware, some of their accessories, they have issues, but they'll get those figured out. Like give Rivian credit for getting this far. They will get those figured out. From what we know with regards to Rivian making the step with regards to gaining access to the Tesla supercharging network is that their app integration was released today, saying that it is now open to non-Tesla EVs. And so I believe you can still use the Tesla's app to activate a session. Of course, so with regards to the membership, I think you scroll down in the membership section, you'll see $13 a month. You can click on that, boom, you'll be able to be enrolled on that end. But I do not believe that the app interface from Tesla as non-Tesla Rivian. I do not believe that it has the link via ISO 15118 to be able to do the just plug and play. I think you still have to plug it in, hit the button, say engage charging session, and then boom, it'll start. Okay, so no big deal. We're good on that end. But what we know for now is that Rivian has made that announcement, and they also, of course, we know that the announcement, access to the supercharger network, is done through an adapter. So they make the announcement this month, which we knew they were going to make it in March, but then they say that the adapter is not available till April. So it's like, which is it? The announcement, in our opinion, could be seen as a little bit premature, but look, they'll, I guess they'll play that out with owners. There's a lot of third-party adapters out there. I believe A to Z and Electron have their adapters for sale for like $199. Of course, the Rivian, everything across the Rivian's dashboard and everything tells you don't use third-party adapters. They're not they're not they won't work or whatever, but they do work. They're just saying it, to basically reduce the limited liability with regards to things that are beyond their control that could cause issues to arise. And so we don't want that, which is good. Look, follow their advice. They know what they're doing. They know what they're talking about. But as far as like third party NACS adapters, like NACS to CCS adapters, they do have those out there, and they will work on this, and they will be compatible. So I think it's just regarding like the vehicle amperage. Like some of those adapters may not be or may be rated for the certain amperage and the voltage tolerance that the station can deliver, as well as the vehicle can accept. So I don't know what to tell you. Be sure to consult your nearest electric car charging station guys for more advice, but we're not financial advisors. I don't know. Look, you can. I know that from what I've seen out there, you can actually approach. You don't actually need the adapter. You can actually still approach the Tesla Supercharger Magic Dock locations. If those Magic Dock locations are version 3 and they've been opened up to the network, I believe as Rivian, you can go in there and boom, you can use those without the adapter. So try those out if you're kind of near those locations. They are far few in between and very scarce throughout the North American, I guess the US based supercharger network. So that's what we do. Hey guys, look, if you can, go ahead and click the thumbs up icon down below. AI, the algorithms, you know what to do. There's a thumb. Go ahead and click it. Love you, man. All right. So, problem still lies, in our opinion, from what we're seeing, in the fact on the charging port location. Like, it's still in the driver's front location on the Rivian R1Ts and R1Ss, and it's a non-native location to the Tesla Supercharger site setup. And so if the industry has done such a good move to standardize everything in one port, like the next, it's like, yes, we've done it. We're as an industry, we're moving to one actual whole holistic. This is exactly what we need. The problem is, again, we 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 can't seem to get the charging port location like identified. Like that needs to be standard in the same place on all vehicles across the board. And so I'm hoping that, you know, if you're gonna join the network, that Tesla is going to further encourage adoption, especially when those vehicles in 2025 start manufacturing those NACS charging inlets inside the charging ports. Like they are positioned in the driver's rear tail light, much like the same as Tesla. I think if we can move as an industry there, I think we'll all be better for it. But right now, because of that location, because of that driver's front location, if you have a Rivian or a Ford and you pull up to a supercharger spot, you're going to be blocking two spots. And so not only are you blocking two spots, but you're actually not able to charge as fast as a Tesla that is there, right? And so yeah, I mean, I think you'll be pulling, maybe somewhere between, depending on the limitations of the model, the Ford or the Rivian model you have, and some adapter limitations. You could be limited to somewhere between 150, maybe 200 and 215 kW. It just depends, but that's when you're using the adapter. So just knowing that it's going to take those vehicles even longer. So not only are you taking up two parking spaces, but now you're taking even longer to do it. And it's like, oh, I hope, I pray to the charging gods that in 2025, when Ford, when Rivian, when GM, when everyone who's accepted the NAC standard starts manufacturing this charging port, you know, charging inlet, actually, the connector inlet inside their vehicles. I just pray that they all have a charging port location in the driver's rear. That's going to be huge for the network location and ultimately the easiest way to design these supercharging sites. It's a pain when you don't have a clear, definitive, uniform, standard that all vehicles that pull up to your place actually is going to be located. And that's why you have such limited site planning, I guess you could call it designs with regards to the the EV goes and the electrify Americas of the world. Um, they don't all fit the same mold as with a Tesla. You can just jump in, boom, hit the curb and get running. So anyway, what we do know is that uh, the adapters with the Ford and the Rivian, they are using the uh, ISO 15118, which is that's the certificate exchange for seamless plug and play use. So they are using it. So if you have everything set up on your Rivian account, all that stuff, and you pull up to the supercharger, you can just literally grab, put the adapter on, boom, plug in, you're done. And so, Rivian only I believe Rivian only wants 500 amps for their car. Um, so as long as the adapter is rated for 500 amps, you should be good. And against the V3 superchargers, I believe the V3s are operating somewhere between like 700, 750, amps. But I always do it's like 700 plus because it just varies. And so, you know, one of the main things that came up in a discussion earlier was, hey, if I have the Ford, app, let's say if I'm driving my Ford Mustang, Mustang, Mach E, or the Ford Lightning, or even the Rivian, and I select that charger on the Ford's dashboard or on Rivian's dashboard, and I want to go to it, and it navigates me to that location. Does the software on the back end have the ability to precondition the batteries if in colder weather or warmer weathers to like arrive at that perfect optimal temperature uh, to maximize the charging session. And from what we're seeing, yes, that's why it was imperative for Ford and Rivian to maintain this API integration on their end, so that they control and they can include some of those features that just allow for more efficiency when actually pulling up to those supercharger spots. So yes, from what we know, it does allow that kind of uh, I guess battery preconditioning feature, but you have to actually push inside the actual dashboard, navigation dashboard in your vehicle. You have to make sure that hey, I want to go here, and it should do that. So optimal temperature for batteries are kind of like, for humans, I guess, like California, 70-degree weather, right? 20-degree Fahrenheit is kind of where they want to be. So any variance outside of that, whether I guess hotter or colder, it's going to take some time to precondition those batteries to get to that optimal temperature. So from what we know, we can reassure. We talked about the next generation Rivians, the R2 and the R3. They they released and debuted those products, and they have the charging station on the passenger rear location. Now, we also know that those of Hyundai, Kia, they're all putting their charging station locations on the passenger rear. And from what we've learned, they're doing it because of curbside parking. And it's like, guys, city parking, I know we've got so many hurdles to cross when it comes to municipality and utility design criteria and everything that kind of offshores with regards to curbside parking. That is a nightmare. Don't put your charging location or say that this charging location is there because we want to cater to curbside parking. That is going to be a use case of maybe 1 or 2% of all charging use cases, as opposed to the 99 to 98% that actually need and would be better suited for that driver's rear taillight. It's a no-brainer. I don't know, but this is what we've kind of managed to scrum up from a lot of the information that we're at. So if you look at the play for Rivian in this whole mix, it's really good. So kudos for Tesla. It's 100%, like we talked about, a membership play as well as a utilization play to maximize, the utilization and the efficiency of their existing network. So, hey, this is really good news. We've also seen kind of a slowdown on the Tesla Supercharger network deployment here in the US. Across the globe, Tesla was averaging somewhere around 33 to 35 Tesla Superchargers coming online every single week. They were kind of approaching that 40 Tesla, 40 Supercharger sites, you know, online, placed in the service every single week. And that number has consistently dropped. And I think Tesla, what we're seeing is that Tesla's trying to focus on utilization more than they're focusing on numbers. And then I think once that utilization starts to pick up, they'll start increasing those numbers. That's why, of course, they made that recent announcement that it took them 10 years to it took them what? Yeah, let's see. Yeah, it took them 10 years to get 11 years to get 50,000 chargers, superchargers, nationwide, and they plan on doing another 50,000 in the next 2 years, and that's great. But overall, what we want to do is we want to be able to track, like, okay, well, we've seen a little bit of volatility on that. And I think, from us working directly with Tesla, we've heard that they're starting to prioritize utilization at these sites as opposed to just quantity. And so I think they are going to continue to keep their foot on the pedal with regards to, see, notice I said pedal, I didn't say gas. They're going to start keeping their foot on the pedal on the supercharger deployments, but we've seen a significant slowdown in that end. So we're going to keep an eye on it. We'll hope that they actually ramp up, and we'll go from there. But as far as the Rivian, like, what will happen to Rivian's Adventure Network? You know, this is a great announcement. It like I talked about, it definitely increases resale value of Rivians, 20%. Hell, I was not really inclined to purchase a Rivian or a Ford Lightning, but now I kind of am. We're kind of looking at maybe these will be really good work trucks for our electric car charging and installation fleet. You know, prices will have to come down. I'm a bit of a cheapskate, so we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But you know, I think from what we know, Rivian, reports are saying that Rivian will still continue to deploy their Rivian Adventure Network out there, but with the loss per vehicle increasing from 30 grand to 45 grand in the, from third quarter to fourth quarter of last year, in Q4, I mean, this quarter right here is about to come to an end. We have about, I don't know, it's like 14 more days before the quarter comes to an end in 2024. The first quarter of 2024 comes to an end. And so, like, from reports, we're seeing Rivian only has about 6 more quarters left of burn rate and runway. I mean, that means that, yeah, thanks for telling us that, the R12 and the or the R2 and the R3 are gonna be, in the next 2 years, but man, you gotta have enough runway to actually meet that and be there. So and grow at the same time. So I don't know. This is the dilemma that I see in Rivian's future, and I think it can only be accomplished with increased automation and another capital injection from the likes of either Ford or Amazon. That or look, this is a speculative moment. I'm just saying that perhaps some great company like Apple will come in, purchase them in their greatest time of need, right before they go bankrupt, you know, and I mean, you look at what Apple's already done when they just cut their what $10 billion project on Project Titan. That was their electric car project, and guess something happened with that project where they had 1,000 people on that project, and then they just cut it and said, "Hey, we're not doing it." So okay, great, $10 billion in loss. Drop $30 billion on Rivian whenever they need it to bail all their investors out, whatever. Boom, take them over and rock and roll with an existing platform. Go. And so perhaps uh, perhaps they can make a move for it. I mean, I'd feel a lot more comfortable if Apple took over Rivian. That would be a huge move. But hopefully RJ can keep things going on that. Like time will tell. I don't know. Um, but what we get from a lot of this, by the way, it's like Texas Tuesday. I'm not in my regular uniform. It's Texas Tuesday, y'all. All right, so what we get a lot from, if you notice, like the beginning of the EV era, it was all about range anxiety. Oh, we don't have, we there's not enough range in these EVs, and then you started seeing the Rivian drop 400 miles. You started seeing the Lucid drop 500-mile range. Tesla, started talking about the Roadster coming in at 600-mile, mile range. And I, in my opinion, I think just based on the efficiency and a little bit of the losses that come with modern day driving, I think real and then of course, your battery pack being, you need to keep your battery between 80 and 20%. Well, that's 40% of your freaking battery here, people. Like, come on. If you can get to that 700-mile mark, and I know everyone's gonna, hate me for this. If you can get to that 700-mile mark, keep it between 80 and 20, well, that pulls you closer to, around 500, maybe 450, and then just due to the efficiency losses and real world application of, now you're getting to that 400-mile range. Now you're, kind of compatible with that of gasoline cars. Don't be afraid to drop, 600-mile range battery packs in these EVs. That's what the public wants. That's what the customers are going to need. And I get it. Yeah, it doesn't, do the whole daily, but we've been driving these things for 100 years, and we we know kind of what it takes for a comfortable driving range. Not everyone wants to plug in their car every single day. If I can plug in my car once a week, just like I go to the gas station once a week, but instead of going to a gas station, I'm doing it in my house garage, then great. That's awesome. But to have to do it, once every other day or once every 3 days, like I think generally people want to plug in their vehicles, you know, not every single day. That's just my opinion. I hate plugging in my cars, but it is what it is. Okay, so first it was range anxiety. That's been solved. Don't really hear too much about range anxiety, which we've been hearing a lot about was charge anxiety. You know, the charging stations. There's not enough charging stations out there. Well, now this one move for the likes of Rivian and Ford, this is going to actually help reduce the charging anxiety for these OEMs. It's great. So I think that's a really good thing. So if you take range anxiety out of the picture and then you take charge anxiety out of the picture, like, do you really have an excuse not to buy an EV now? I don't know. That's That's to be told. We don't know. Look, congratulations on getting there. This was a long time rating, I know, from most Rivian customers, most Rivian fans. Look, I'm like I talked about. I'm actually thinking about possibly doing a Ford, maybe a used Ford or a used Rivian out there. I'll see to join the electrification fleet that we have. Yeah, look, it's good stuff, man. So, what I wanted to do was to see. Um, let's see here. We got Anthony. I disagree with you on the standardized port locations, DFC. Yes, but the problem, Anthony, is that DFC CPOs they're already charging port agnostic. Yes, we understand that, and Tesla is moving away from the V4 dispensers. But what we've seen is that Tesla is actually, instead of putting that V4 dispenser, kind of right in the front, or like I guess right on the line, they're kind of starting to shift them over to like the middle. And so, that might be Tesla's answer for the V4 to actually offset, of course, with the longer cable to be able to do that move. But the the point is that you're going to have this turbulent time in the next maybe 3 to 5 years where you have a lot of these older EVs with the port location not standardized to be able to do that. But when you start increasing the actual charging like cable itself, that increases cost, that increases theft and everything else that comes in the vandalism, like the amount of copper that's in those. Like people are still in Cadillac converters. They're still in, the modules out of the AC units. I mean, you see everyone's, things on these, and so just dealing with the weight of that cable, if we can minimize that, get the whole industry to kind of centralize their port location, it's just going to make it a lot easier for us in America. I don't think that the port location is as standardized, and correct me if I'm wrong, in China and in Europe. I think they're still experiencing those problems, but let's learn from those. Let's learn from China. Let's learn from Europe markets and put that in there. So, you know, yes, I do agree that the V3 short cable issue will diminish once they get the V4 dispensers in there, but that's going to take a long time. That's going to be a huge rollout effect. So, ideal wise, like we don't even want to deal with cables. Ideal wise, we want to see wireless charging take over this whole thing, because we know that you really can't have 100% full autonomous driving without wireless charging. So that's where we see the future. That's where we know that these DC fast chargers will eventually move to. But that's a lot of power, and yeah, I think from what we saw recent news, wireless charging debuted at like 100 kW successfully. Really good power draw there. So that's good news. That means that hopefully we can get that technology to scale down in price, and it could be just as affordable as some of the DC fast charging dispensers out there today. So yeah, yeah, CPOs are already charging port agnostic. Yes, and Tesla is moving that way with the V4 dispensers. Yes, but again, we talked about the length of that cable, and Tesla's deployment of V4 charging stations. They're coming, but they're not going to come fast enough unless they actually kind of get a firm like us to actually go out there and like remove these V3s and put in V4s. That could be the case. But what we're seeing is that in their destination charge spikes, like the destination charge slots, they're not putting charging stations kind of in the middle of the parking spots. They're kind of pushing them over a little bit, so that way, you can kind of do that whole uh, basically musical chairs on the port location for the vehicles. But yeah, you're right. It does take a while for the longer cables to become more prevalent, because yeah, we're so early in the transaction period. But what I was saying was more like the fact that we done such a good job. Like, just think about how much work it took for us to just consolidate from like three charging ports to just one, because we're getting to that mass adoption phase. That one charging port with regards to the NACS is just going to make it the adoption for EVs that much easier. And then if you can put the location in the same spot, it just makes it even more easier for charging providers to be able to provide more and more charging access. But the idea is, again, there's not even going to need to be a charging port on the cars eventually, hopefully in the next 10 years, because everything's going to be wireless charging. But that's like in your future, 15, 10 years, and go from there. But look, guys, I really want to thank you guys for everything. Thanks you so much to our listeners and subscribers today for your time. I hope this episode's brought to you just a little bit more value today. We're all better for it. I know I'm better for it. Look, I love you guys. We can't do this episode without you, so definitely appreciate you tuning in today. Go ahead and click the thumbs up icon down below if you liked it. Share, comment, subscribe to our channel if you think we earned it. And thanks again for charging up with us today. And keep in mind, you can always find us at smartchargeamerica.com. And remember, folks, if you can't charge, you can't drive. We'll see you next time. Cheers.